when you made this transition and became a fiction author
Mm.
25 years ago, did you set out with a bit of a mission that you wanted to put some positive, I guess, positive vibes out into the world? Or was it just kind of what naturally flowed out of you from your kind of lived experience to that point?
Yeah, I don't think I had a mission. I didn't have an agenda or a sense of particular purpose of the sort that you describe. I think that what I wanted to do was to write fiction. I had been writing quite a bit of fiction beforehand, before I set out as a novelist, and in particular before I set out to write the number one ladies detective agency series. In that I wrote a large number of children's books, and I also did short stories and radio plays and things like that. So I had a career as a writer which sat alongside my main career, which was as a university professor. And I had the day job, so to speak.
Yes.
And then in my spare time, I wrote books. I wrote quite a number of children's books, and as I say, short stories and so on. And then I embarked on a full-time career as a novelist. I had a change of career relatively late in life, which is quite a good thing to do, actually, quite an interesting thing to do.
Hmm.
Most of us who do it feel very unsure about it before we take the plunge. We move from being in a position where we receive a salary and we've got the security of that, and we say, right, we're going to go off and do something completely different and sink or swim by ourselves. But I made that choice, and I'm very grateful that I did. To a certain extent, it was made for me because the books took off, and so really that was a bit of a pointer. But I didn't really, returning to your question, which is an interesting one, which I suppose one could pose in general terms as why writers write what they do.
Hmm.
Uh, I didn't say to myself, I'm going to convey any particular message. I wrote the stories that I wanted to write. I wrote what I wanted to say about the world. And that, in a sense, is something that you don't always sit down and define in advance. You don't always say, "This is the way I should approach this." You just do it. It's rather like, I suppose, thinking of a melody. If you're a composer and you're about to write some music, the melody might just come to you. It's there in your head. That's what composers tend to say.
Hmm.
And I think that that's the same with the writer. You access in the process of writing the subconscious mind, which of course contains many of the things that you want to say, or the things that you believe, many of your positions on things. So I found myself writing in what I suppose one might call a fairly cheerful mode, very perhaps a positive mode. Now, literature is a very broad church,
Hmm.
and so there's a role and a place for all sorts of books, and there's a role for tragedy, there's a role for misery, there's a role for, I suppose, a contemplation of the harsh face of the world
Hmm.
and all the difficulties that the world has. But there's also a role for perhaps a more affirmative account of things. And that's where I happen to be.